Hi, everyone. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Galen Chun, clinical psychologist over in Plantation, who's been specializing in our population since 2001 and was also actually ex-CLE employee for quite some time. Dr. Chun, welcome.
Hi.
Did I describe you correctly? Am I right with your titles and a little bit of your background? If you can give me a little bit more.
Yeah, so I worked with CLE since 2001, and I was clinical director for many of those years. And so just recently I went, I think in 2018, I went full-time private practice. So specializing in the same area.
And we've kept super close touch, which is great since you know us better and we know you better than anyone. So it works out good to collaborate together. As I was talking to you before, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do these, where we really want to give the population, their families, the students, like something to go back to, like some information that they're going to find really usable during such a difficult time. And right now we were talking about what you're seeing in most of your patients at this time because of the pandemic. I mean, I'm sure at the beginning it was great because it was a nice, relaxing, vacay, we took it. And then after 3 or 4 weeks of the kids being in the house and just playing board games and electric games, what is it that you're seeing with your patients?
Well, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's like this really extended summer. And the truth is it isn't. It's actually a lot worse. We don't have summer camps, first of all, for like high school students. And we found that like a lot of my clients are completely unstructured now, whereas like their sleep and wake times have like been delayed. So we're talking about getting up sometimes at 12 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon even. And so part of this has to do in part with like the lack of socialization. So a lot of teenagers and young college students, they'll stay up late talking to maybe friends online or playing games collaboratively while talking to people. And it's been a big concern in the sense that they've become very dysregulated when it comes to their sleep. And in addition to that, they're just all of them are staying up talking at the same times really late, but the problem is that they're not really getting much done. So parents are often pulling out their hair saying, this isn't what I signed up for. My kids are waking up really late. I feel like I'm doing all this work and just trying to get them to do what they need to do. And so there's just this incredible lack of structure. So
right. It's a cycle.
It is a cycle.
That's what we're trying to, stress to our parents is that the only way for us to continue with forward momentum is to have some type of structure. Now, it doesn't have to mean, like the schedules that we had a CLE to keep them on. However, coming up on fall, I mean, the best way to do that is to get started, like now more than ever and not putting anything on hold. Wouldn't you say?
Of course. Like, so one of the things that I encourage with my clients, I help them, first of all, like, I would have to say this about plans. The best kind of plans are the ones that they do. A lot of parents like launch into a lot of plans. And so what I like being able to do is encouraging parents to provide the requirements. Like, look, we want you getting up, we want you exercising, we want you doing this. It's up to you how to do it, and you have to coordinate doing this. And I talk about not necessarily times, like at 8 o'clock we're waking up and I talk about like, when do you do this? What's the first thing you do in the morning? What's the second thing you do in the morning? And the whole idea is that there's this incredible lack of productivity going on. And it's very hard for my clients to really learn how to put work before play. And so it's just play all the time. And that's not really a realistic expectation to maintain, especially when they get out in the working world. And so part of how I help them structure that is really talk about zones. And this has to do with more or less with understanding that there's this really big mix up now of boundaries, and that if they are doing work, they're doing it on a computer. If they're playing, they're doing it on a computer or a console. There's screens everywhere. If they're talking to people, and if they're really like really speaking to them and doing this till 2 a.m, it's on the computer. So all of these things are a screen, and we know with the blue light from screens that that often like delays sleep onset. So it's like looking at a little miniature sun, and so people, their circadian rhythm gets messed up then too. So it's been a big challenge to get people to be able to work towards like being kind to their bodies too. And I think the premise of sleep hygiene research over the past 20, 30 years has really been able to say, look, you only need to do sleep in bed, sleep and sex technically. Everything else in bed should be not done. So even people now, high school students, college students, a lot of times they're just doing everything. They're studying, they've got a desk in their bedroom.
That's true.
Everything is just mixed up. And so part of what I've done with even some of my younger clients is that we've actually gone so far as to take the blue painter's tape and put out like zones or squares. And they say, okay, this is where you do your body weight exercises if you want to do those, and this is maybe where your station where you do your work. For a lot of people, they may not have like the luxury of like a kitchen table where they can work and it's quiet.
But that's good for even dorms or anywhere else where they're going to be studying. That's true.
But it's just to have like a kind of a physical delineation. And so, but just being able to really like have a separate place where they do everything. If you can, like have like a separate like device even. This is where I do all my work. This is the one place I do my work. When I leave this one little area, I am now in play.
Right. Socially.
So it helps provide a little bit more of the structure that they need. But I think it's more or less one of those things where they don't have the self-control sometimes. And I know I talk to a lot of parents who are, especially in the high school, school student parents who are really struggling with this, but self-control is really hard. And they're in this kind of dilemma of saying, well, look, if I take away their devices, they're not talking to friends, and they have so few friends that I really worry about that. I don't want to do that. And for those parents, I say, okay, that's great. So come up with a happy medium. If they want to go, if they have nothing to do in the morning, okay, great. So let's say they wake up at noon because they're talking to get 8 hours sleep, they're talking late. So let's just kind of make sure they get the 8 hours sleep, and that maybe that is later that they're waking up. But instead of like saying, no, you can't talk to your friends, make kind of a strike a balance and say, okay, I'm going to let you, we're not going to take away the devices until this time so that you can talk to your friends, but we do expect you to give them up so that we can so you can get adequate sleep.
And I think that's what it is though, that type of compromise, because in turn with staying up and lack of sleep, then you're also waking up, you're missing meals, then you're missing your morning medication or when you're supposed to take that, then that makes you grouchy. And it just seems like, it's never ending unless you get that together from the jump start,
Yeah, in particular, the eating and sleep has been sincerely infecting, because we talked a little bit before about this, but like the medication, sometimes people tend to work on rhythms. So I eat, then I take my medication. And when you're pushing that back, especially for those with attention issues, if they're taking their stimulant at noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then they're definitely going to be up.
Right.
So, and then I've had some clients even they're not eating adequately. So I've had some underweight clients, and they've experienced more severe depression, and it's actually based on just nutrition and that they're not getting enough calories. There's a few that they're struggling with that. And
it's crazy. You wouldn't think that one goes hand in hand, but that's the thing, is we're speaking to a lot more families that are saying that maybe online is not for their student. And the reality of it is, Galen, is that this may be our new norm. And if this isn't the case and you're not going to do any online supports or online academic, then what are you going to do? What is your plan? Like, what is your next plan? Because the plan can't just be, we're going to wait for COVID to pass, because that's putting your life on hold, academics on hold, etc. Like, I understand that they don't want to move in, some families, to the Florida Center until January. We got it. But as of now, kids are already starting. We're picking classes. We're starting executive functioning. We're focusing on career development, because sooner or later, these are going to become important topics that we kind of need to dive into now. And you have that one-on-one support, and you have medical practitioners like yourself that we turn to see, hey, what are some red flags with so-and-so, or as a whole, And is that what you've been seeing? Like, what is the thing that's the most concerning for you since we've been locked up, I guess?
I mean, I think it's the hidden cost of COVID, in that COVID-19, we talk about all the medical issues that are as a result of having the disease, but there's an incredible amount of psychological harm. Being socially isolated, we know that with research, like even with the elderly, that when their social supports start going, the depression rates increase for the elderly as their friends like pass. And so now, in my population, specifically the people with high functioning autism or learning disabilities, they tend to really like miss their friends. They don't know quite how to interact online. They're having difficulty anyway with the socialization.
Right.
And so often when we know this happens, they kind of take on more of an addictive quality with the things that do make them feel good, which would be games. And so there's this over-reliance then on playing these games. And so what I find that's really most distressing is that they're not making those connections as much.
Right.
And so they're going to be online anyway. So why not be online with a warm, compassionate person from CLE who's helping them learn, and engages with them and knows their attention difficulties or their difficulties in focusing and carrying out with executive functioning.
Right.
So I do believe that online is something they're doing anyway. So might as well work and be productive online and use it as a medium, as a tool to move forward.
100%. I mean, right now, CLE, we're doing our socials and actually incorporating the other centers, the other locations. So what nicer than to meet different kids that are not just at your Davie Center, but you're doing talent shows or anime or Dungeons and Dragons, and listening to the kids from California and from Texas and from Rockville, and really coming up with a nice little community. I mean, that's something that they're never going to have a chance to do again, And when you're talking, we were talking to somebody else before that mentioned that independent living skills. The truth is, they listen to us a good portion more than they listen to their parents, who they think are, all day and night. But if we tell them, no, I want to see how you made your bed. I want to see the laundry that you just did. All those hygiene that we would have done physically one-on-one in their apartments, we can do just the same at home. You're still going to have your room. You're still going to have your responsibilities. You still need to cook the same way that you would have. But when you're back home and your parents are putting that on you, it's so easy to just regress into having everything done for you. And really their social interaction to them is just their mom and dad, which is not the social interaction that we want you to kind of go out there and find.
So a couple of points to unpack there, which I think are really brilliant. And one of them is, first of all, for years before COVID even happened, I had clients having friends in Russia and Europe and talking to people. And in fact, finding true peers is really tough in people with learning differences, because they have very specific interests. And so, they have people and friends in different time zones. And so what CLE is doing to kind of help unify all the centers and to bring true peers to the population is really important for developing that sense of community, because many of them are already isolated and already feel alone.
Right.
And so finding someone who likes their anime that they enjoy, or finding somebody who loves that really idiosyncratic kind of interest and can talk about it with them is incredibly normalizing.
Yeah.
And and finding someone developmentally, even maturationally speaking, which often in the population is a little bit less, it's lower than what their age appropriate. And so being able to find peers that have the same makeup is incredibly important.
Right.
So
You're putting a light in something in a really difficult time. And that's not to say that your social support isn't going to be followed up with your academic tutor that you might not want to delve into, but what nicer than that you can make a connection with somebody that has that same interest.
absolutely. And the whole too, like, this is the thing that parents, I have to hand it to them. They really do say a lot of amazing things. And it's great, but there's a certain point in adolescence where they don't listen because they're trying to individuate, they're trying to become an adult. And that's a really good energy. And so at this stage, I really encourage my parents to say, okay, let me be more of a consultant and let me kind of work towards goals and like give them more choices or more problems to solve and say, hey, this is a problem. How are you going to come and work on it? A lot of times parents provide solutions, but they aren't getting their kids engaged in that decision-making process. Now, CLE for years has been really great about being able to not be or sound like a parent and just come in and be like, responsibility, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, oh, you turned that pair of underwear inside out. I know, like, that's not great. There's this huge load of laundry there. We noticed, like, what's up with your room, you know, and that's very different coming from someone that doesn't sound like a parent.
It is. It is. And, you know, the same goes to, we go back to socially, when we're teaching them texting cues and internet safety. I mean, those are things sometimes they don't want to go to their parents about, or they don't want to go to their parents and tell them why a girl didn't answer the 37th text that he wrote to somebody, you know, like that's, you know, stuff also interpersonally that you do want somebody with supports helping you out that's kind of biased, that's not your family member, that's not going to bring it back up and embarrass you, you know, a week down the line. So all of it, I think all of it works so well together that considering what we're going through as a country, we have to try to find like the lights, you know, in between all of this, because I have a feeling it's going to be going on for quite some time. So let's just go with it. Like we have to go with it. And what a better time, Galen, like you were saying, like pick up a hobby, find online something career development wise. Let us help you find what are your strengths and weaknesses. Where are we going to navigate when this is done to help find you a mentorship or a part-time job or full-time job? Like, you know, this is the time to do that. What do you want? Do you want to trim down and eat healthy? There's so much out there that we could be doing and online that, you know, I don't want anybody thinking that anything needs to be on hold, because it doesn't. Really
and here's the thing that I've actually noticed about a lot of my clients is that because there's so few things that are actually making them feel good, I've actually had some clients to, you know, break their screens. They're like playing a game, they don't do well in it. Like they're playing Fortnite, they lose, they had a good ranking, throwing the controller at the screen, breaking it, and or yelling and cursing and really like just getting really frustrated because this is the one thing that they're feeling good about. And so, and I just think about all the skills that they use because it's engaging. Online activity like gaming is incredibly engaging, and it's something that needs to be balanced. But one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know, they use sometimes incredible executive functioning skills, try to win these games and work towards these things and gather things. But when it comes to their own lives, they're not using those same kind of intelligent ways because the payoff is so delayed that they're like, ugh.
Right.
And that's why even in my work, I try to shorten the payoff. And we really I work on really identifying those smaller steps where you can get a little bit more payoff. And maybe the payoff is sitting, talking to an empathetic individual who says, good job. Like, I can't believe you were able to do that. And that's one step now towards this goal. Let's slow it down.
Right.
I have so many clients that are like, yeah, I want to be a filmmaker. Okay, great. Let's work on dialogue.
Right.
Let's work on just coming up with dialogue that sounds like real dialogue. You know?
No, they want to go from I want to be a filmmaker to we're making films.
Yes.
Let's start
Yes.
making films. Yeah, we kind of miss the whole hard work and the grunt stuff in the middle of it. So this is the time to figure it out, you know, get those details, do some research, like really delve into it to see. Because maybe, listen, maybe 90% of what we think that we're going to be amazing at is not really what we're going to end up doing, because we find that we have, you know, other strengths and weaknesses that we never would have thought initially, you know. And who better but than a group and a support network to help you with that, you know, and help bring that to your attention and work through it, navigate with you. So,
and I think this is a great point about even CLE, because CLE has always been, and I've been a big part of that philosophy with them, is that never really say you can't, but let's really talk about what you can, and work on, okay, so you're not going to be a filmmaker because you can't really hack some of those things. Okay, we found that out now. So what can you do? Oh, you can shoot video with a video camera. You can edit videos together brilliantly and time it really well with music. So what can you do? And let's really look at kind of doing what it takes to really identify what is the path that is going to work on developing your strengths to the point where you can make that employable. Because that's the ultimate end, is that everybody needs something to feel good about, and some sort of work that they can do, and where they can fit in and have the relationships that everyone else has. And I think that's always a mistake, to think that a lot of parents come in saying, oh, well, they're not interested in dating. They're not interested in all these things. And the truth is, maybe they've given up because they've had such, like, you know, experience of failures. And it's really just about really learning to fine tune. Okay, so you like a girl, so you texted her 100 times when she didn't respond. You know, like really like learning like some key principles about being too available.
Exactly. And knowing that, you know, whoever says that they are a certain person online may not really be that person. So there's a lot of misconception and you know, not so good things going on the other end of the screen. So as long as we're savvy to that, then we should be able to be okay, you know, and learn. And that's what we do. We learn one-on-one, but we also bring that out to the group so that the group is also like, oh, okay.
Yes,
you know,
and I don't want to scare anyone, but there are a number of ones that are my clients fall for, and it's so sad, especially the ones that are like
catfish ones.
Well, kind of like, it's usually like the one that's been occurring more lately. I don't know if you want to put this in the video or not, but the one that's occurred more recently that several of my clients now have fallen prey to is that really beautiful girl online starts talking to them. They become friends with them on Facebook, whatnot. They get them in a compromised position on video. And then they blackmail them and they say, give me $600, or I'm going to, you know, post these pictures or this video.
Horrific.
And that's already happened to one of my clients before they got to me. And it's just very sad that you have to put out the warnings that, hey, this does happen. And it was posted. It was sad. It was posted on my client's, like, it was posted on his like Facebook page, the pictures, and he was very embarrassed by it, that they were, you know, immediately removed, but not before people saw them.
Right. And that's the thing, using situations like that, whether anonymously or not, or if the student wants to share with the group, but they need to know, because there's new things, new scams like that daily, Galen, like daily. Like, it's like you can't keep up with it. And if it's not Snap, it's another one, and it's on Instagram, that you really need to be savvy enough that when they say it takes a village, it does. It takes the village to, like, really keep on your toes and kind of try to help protect our kiddos. So, but thank you so much. I'm so glad you took the time to speak with me. I think you gave some amazing tips and things to look out for, and I'm glad to see there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're doing good. I think, like you said, forward momentum, staying on track, like really trying to keep that eye on the prize, I guess, so to speak, and not putting the rest of our lives on hold. you know, this too shall pass, and it may create just a new norm, which is what we're doing now. So virtual for now, not to say for always.
So thank you as always. And I do love that. I think for confidence building, every one of my clients needs something to feel productive about. And so if that's as small as like, hey, I learned how to do laundry, or hey, I finished this class online, you know, it's something
It's huge.
to
Yes.
help them feel productive. Because the one thing that I think we all forget is that everybody needs to feel good, even them. And feeling
100%.
productive on a game is great, but it doesn't give them necessarily the skills or the confidence to go out in life and be productive.
Right. Life skills. Yeah. For young adults, it's needed. Thank you, Galen. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank
We'll
you.
be talking soon again.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.